All right, let's talk about a word that's everywhere these days. A word you've probably heard and maybe even felt: burnout. It's so much more than just feeling tired. It's a really complex condition, and the science behind it is pretty fascinating. So let's dive in.
Okay, let me just ask you, do you feel completely drained, like your battery is always on empty? Maybe you're feeling a bit cynical, a little detached from a job you used to care about. Or do you feel like you're just spinning your wheels, working harder than ever but not actually getting anything done? If any of that sounds familiar, yeah, you are so not alone.
In fact, according to recent data from Eagle Hill Consulting, a whopping 55% of all workers in the US say they're feeling burnt out. And look, this isn't just you feeling a bit off on a Tuesday. We're talking about a massive, widespread trend.
So that brings us right to our first point. We really need to wrap our heads around the sheer scale of this, because this thing, it's basically a modern epidemic.
So check this out. When Gallup breaks it down by generation, the numbers are pretty eye-opening. While it hits everybody, it's hitting younger workers the hardest. You've got Gen Z leading the pack at a staggering 66%, with millennials right behind at 59%. This isn't just, a phase. It's becoming a defining part of what it means to have a career right now. And wow, does this have consequences? Research from LinkedIn and Gallup found that an employee who's burned out is a full 3 times more likely to just quit. We're not just talking about having a few bad days at the office. This is about careers getting completely derailed and companies losing their very best people.
Okay, so if we're ever going to figure out how to solve this, we first have to get really clear on what burnout actually is, because it's not just a buzzword for being overworked. It's a real, specific, medically recognized condition.
I mean, the World Health Organization, the WHO, they've officially classified it. And their definition is so important. They call it an occupational syndrome that comes from chronic workplace stress that hasn't been managed well. The key here? The problem is the environment, not you. And the WHO breaks it down even further. They say for it to be actual burnout, 3 things have to be happening all at once. First, that feeling of being completely drained, like your battery is totally empty. Second, you start feeling cynical or just distant from your job. You're just phoning it in. And third, you feel like you're not good at your job anymore. That sense of accomplishment, it's gone. It's that toxic trio, that's clinical burnout.
And this is a really important point to make: the difference between burnout and depression. See, burnout is all about your job. You take a break, you change jobs, and the symptoms often get better. Depression, though, that's different. It's this cloud that follows you everywhere. At work, at home, it doesn't matter. It's much more pervasive. And get this isn't just a feeling, it's a physical thing. Seriously, there are these incredible brain scan studies from Uppsala University that have shown that burnout literally, physically changes your brain. It actually messes with the parts of your brain that handle emotions and decision-making. So yeah, burnout isn't just in your head, it's actively changing your head.
So that leads us to the million-dollar question, right? If it's not a personal failing, what is the real cause? Well, researchers have pinpointed 6 main reasons this happens. And here they are: a crushing workload, having no control over your work, not getting the rewards or recognition you deserve, a lack of community, feeling like things are unfair, and a mismatch between your values and the company's. See a pattern here? Every single one of these is about the system, about the organization. It's not about the individual.
Let's just zoom in on the biggest one for a second: the crazy workload. This chart, based on Stanford research, it basically shows something we can call the productivity cliff. Your productivity is great, it's climbing, right up until about 50 hours a week. But what happens after 55 hours? You get 0 extra benefit. Nothing. Your productivity just flatlines, or even goes down. So all that extra time, it's not just useless, it's actually making things worse. Working more isn't the solution. It is the problem.
And those other 5 causes, they're just as toxic. Getting micromanaged all day kills your sense of control. Not getting paid fairly or recognized for your hard work makes you feel invisible. Feeling isolated, especially when we're working remotely, breaks down that sense of community. And being asked to do work that goes against what you believe in, that can cause something researchers call moral injury. And that's a deep, deep kind of burnout.
Okay, so now that we know the real causes, how the heck do we fix it? Let's get into some actual evidence-based solutions. Because let's be real, most of the advice you hear out there, it's just plain wrong.
All right, myth number 1, the one we hear all the time: oh, you just need a good vacation. But
Does it work?
Well, what does the data say? A big fat no. I mean, 77%. That's how many people feel exactly the same when they get back to the office. And why is that? It's simple. A 2-week vacation doesn't fix an impossible workload or a toxic boss. You're just hitting the pause button on the very system that's burning you out.
Okay, here's another one, and this one is really dangerous, especially if you're a high achiever. The idea that if you just love your job enough, you're immune to burnout.
The truth? The research shows it's the complete opposite. Passionate people, the ones who really care, they actually burn out faster. Why? Because they're the ones who overcommit, who blur the lines, who give everything they've got, which makes them the most vulnerable when the system eventually breaks them.
And this right here, this really gets to the heart of the problem. So many companies throw these little band-aids at the issue, right? A yoga class, a wellness app, which, are nice, but they do nothing to fix the real issues. The real solutions, the ones backed by science, are all about changing the system, actually cutting the workload, giving people more say in their work, and creating fair ways to recognize them for their contributions.
So what does work? I want you to think about it like a pyramid. At the very bottom, the foundation, the stuff that has the biggest impact, is organizational change, reducing the workload and increasing autonomy. Then you build on top of that with things like creating community and making sure people feel valued. And only then, once that foundation is solid, do the individual things, like setting boundaries and taking care of yourself, actually have a fighting chance to work.
And it's not just me saying this. The latest science, from the biggest journals out there, backs this up completely. The most effective way to tackle burnout is to do both. The company has to change the environment, and the individual has to protect their own well-being. You try to do one without the other, it just doesn't work.
So let's end with this and be perfectly clear about it. Burnout is not your fault. It's not a personal failure you can fix with a vacation or a meditation app. It is a design flaw in the way we've built the modern workplace. So the real question we should be asking isn't, how can I be more resilient? The real question is, what are we going to do to fix work itself?